Let's see here. Hey guys, how's it going? It's John here. Some of you know me as Sub-Zero Gaming. This live session is going to be more of just a relaxing type thing where we're releasing a tutorial engine that's going to basically teach you to create games directly inside of Unity without having to watch a video. If you're familiar with like Code School or I don't know what the popular one is, but basically any of those websites where like on the website's very interactive, you know, like they have the code editor and you can learn to program and stuff like that. We're basically designing that, but inside of Unity. And we're going to be releasing our first beta of it on the App Store, or not the App Store, the Asset Store soon. In order to actually release it, I have to write the tutorial for it. So I'm going to go ahead and design the game so I can write the tutorial for it. It looks like Alex joined. What's up, Alex? Okay, so let's see here. And as I'm going along, we can do Q&A, but I'm going to be reading off here. I'm also going to be working on the tutorial, so I have a notepad here that I'm writing it out. But first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and set up the player here. And all the artwork for this is, by the way, if you're going to follow along, whatever, it is by Unity, so you can just go to the asset store and get the artwork for it. So you can do all that. Okay, so let's go ahead. Okay, so we're gonna go in here, we're gonna go into our models, and we have a player ship. We're gonna put that in there. All right, I'm gonna zero it out. Like 270 on the X. All right, and then notice it doesn't have a collider, so I need to add a collider here. So I'm going to add a mesh collider. I'm going to change the mesh though. I don't want to use the actual mesh. It's not performance friendly, so I'm going to use this mesh. And there we go. Alrighty. So we have our collider there. Player setup. Now we can start doing the user input here. So I'm going to go ahead and call this player. Alright, we can put that on our vehicle player ship. I'm going to rename that to player. Give it a tag of player. Let's see here. Open that up. Alright, so basically, I guess I'll go through it as a tutorial too as I'm writing it. But basically, we need player input, like the WSAD keys, and those are stored in the input manager. Alright, so basically, I'm going to have two variables that hold the input. The input manager, you can go to edit, project settings, and then input. So let's do. So we're going to say float h equals. We're going to get the horizontal, which is the arrow keys left and right, as well as the A and D key. Then I'm going to get the vertical as well. Alrighty, that's going to give us the WSAD up and down arrow keys. Right, and they return values of -1 and 0 and 1 based on whichever one you pressed. All right. Let's see here. Where am I in this writing this tutorial here? Okay, so we explained the input manager, which basically allows you to use logic to instruct the player when to move left and right. You can use it for. Now we need to actually move the object, so we do that through transform.translate. So transform.translate. We move the object. Actually, you know what? I might just go ahead and create this game and actually write the tutorial on my own time, so I don't have to waste any time here. But I will explain everything that I'm doing, and maybe it'll help me write it better. So I'm going to go ahead and, just so you guys know what I was doing, I'm going to stop that. So we have our inputs. Now I need to move it based on those inputs. So I'm going to go ahead and just say here, and I'm going to cache my transform real quickly. By the way, if you're using Unity 5, you have to cache every variable now, which is great. They used to not let you, they used to not make you have to do that. But it's a good thing to get a habit of doing. So my transform. Okay, it's good stuff. Yeah, let me put do not disturb on Skype. All right, let's see here. So we have our my transform there. We're just going to assign it here. My transform equals this dot transform. I believe the transform is the only one I can actually still do this dot in. Otherwise, I have to use get component for the rest. But I think transform I still can. If I can't, I'll find out in a minute when I compile. But now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say my transform dot translate. All right, and we're going to say vector3 dot right multiplied by h times time dot delta time. All right, now I need to create a speed variable. I have no reason for my speed to ever be public, so I'm going to go ahead and just make it private. So I'm going to say private float our speed. We can give it a value of 5.0. And if I wanted to see it in the inspector, because it's private, I can't. I could always just serialize it using serialized field. That will allow you to see the variable in the inspector. And I'm just going to go over here, multiply that by my speed. All right, so now we're moving left and right, and then you would do the same thing to move up and down. So vector3 dot up multiplied by v times our speed. Okay, so now we're moving up and down. I need to restrain it, so I can't go off the edge. So let's go and just figure out what the edge is. So say I was building this for the web. I believe it should be 10. Let's see. Yeah, it's about 10. Alrighty. So we just need to check if we're in bounds. So basically, if we're on the x-axis is less than, if it's less than negative 10, then I'm up here at the 10. Appear at 10. Else if the x-axis is greater than 10, I need to appear at negative 10. All right, and this would be a good time to show you guys some temp variables. If you guys remember from my original space shooter, I did it doing where basically I would say my transform opposition equals new vector 3, and then I change the x but keep the current y, keep the current z, right? And the reason why we have to do that is because you have to acknowledge the x, y, and z. You can't ignore one. Like I can't just say my transform opposition x equals 10. In JavaScript or Unity script you can do that, but in C# you can't. You have to acknowledge the y and z. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually just going to create a temp variable, which is going to hold my current position, and then I'm going to modify the x and then assign it. So the way I can do that is I'm going to go and say vector3 new position. So it's like a local variable here, or it's called a temp variable, and it's going to store my current position. So I'm going to say my transform position, and all I want to do is I want to modify the x to be positive 10. So I say new position dot x equals 10. I don't have to do anything with the y and z because this new position variable holds my position, which is the x, y, and z. And then I just say my transform dot position equals new position, and that takes my current position, equals it to new position, which equals my position but with a modified x. So these are called temp variables. Pretty cool. And the reason why I'm doing that again is because I can't just say my transform dot position dot x equals 10. If I do, the console error will error out and it will actually tell me consider doing a temp variable. Or I could have done my transform position equals new vector 3 and then specified all that. I'm trying to avoid the use of the new keyword because every time you use the new keyword, the garbage collection gets called. So if we can avoid that, we can. Let's do that. All right, I'm going to do the exact same thing here. So and that's going to be negative 10. All right, and by the way, if you're tuning in, this is an open QA thing. I just need to create this for the tutorial engine we're working on. So feel free to ask any questions, regardless if it's related to this game or not, anything Unity related, programming related, go for it. All right, so let's go ahead and just test this out. And I got an error here. Unexpected symbol for time. Right, multiply. And this is Unity 5, by the way, and this is actually the first time I've really worked in Unity 5. I've been on 4.6 still. So we'll see if there's any big API changes I need to be aware of. All right, so if we go ahead and just test this out, I should be able to move at a speed of 5. All righty, good stuff. And if I go over here, I can wrap. All right, cool. I'm also going to make it so I can't go above 0 on the Y. So I'm just going to do another if statement here for that. And I can go ahead and say if my transform dot position dot y is greater than or equal to 0, then it needs to equal 0. So the way I can do that, just take my temp position and change the y. So anytime that condition gets called, we're going to be setting our y to 0. Alrighty, and let's just test it out, make sure it's good. And holy snap, I screwed something up, guys. Oh, right. Okay, so I rotated the model 270 degrees, which means technically my up direction is now my forward direction, if you can see that. So instead of vector 3 dot up, it needs to be vector 3 dot forward, which means the new position dot z equals 0, I believe. Okay, there we go. All right, but it didn't lock me in. So I need to make it so I can't go above, what is it? Okay, yeah, it's still 0 on the y. I'm just saying the z though. Okay, so if the y is greater than 0, the new position dot y equals 0. And let's see. All right, and we're good. All right, cool. And I'm also going to make it so I can't go below, what is it? Let's make it so I can't go below negative 3.7. All right, so I can just copy this. And if the position is less than or equal to negative 3.7, then I'm going to appear at negative 3.7. And don't forget your F's. All right, and this is obviously starting to look really messy with all these statements, so I'm actually going to clean it up a bit. And I'll show you how I'm going to do that. And let's just make sure all this works. All right, so now we're restrained from going out of bounds. All right, good stuff. So what I'm going to do here now is this is my update method, very cluttered and absolutely disgusting. I'm just going to go in here, create a new function called calculate movement. We have calculate movement there, and I'm going to throw all of this in there so I don't have to seed an update. All right, so it's in calculate movement and then an update. I'm just going to call that function calculate movement. All right, so we're done with movement. Pretty good. I think we can move on to our laser now. Let's see here. And give me 1 second, guys. I don't know. Nah, I'm not going to post that. I was going to make a thread on the Unity forums, but people will find it regardless, so it's okay. Okay, so we're done with our player here. Let's go and do our our laser stuff now. So I'm wondering if Unity gave us a laser. Did they? They did not give us a laser, so I'm just gonna MacGyver that one. So we're gonna go ahead and here we're gonna create a capsule, and that's gonna be our laser. And then now this is interesting. So let me put this at 0.25, 0.25. Okay, so for our player, the forward is the Z direction, but for this bullet, it's still the Y. So we just need to remember that. But that's going to be our laser. Maybe make it a little smaller, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, and 5. Yeah. Okay, that's going to be our laser, and we can go and create a material for it, unless I have one here. I do not. So create material, laser, and we'll make it red. All right, that didn't. Capsule, we'll call it laser, and we'll make it a prefab. Alrighty, so there's our laser, and now what we need to do is we have our capsule collider there, mesh renderer. Yeah, we're good here. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and just we're gonna give it a tag of laser, which we don't have, so we need to create that. All right, and tag it laser. All right, I'm going to delete that because we have a prefab of it. All right, so in our player, we're going to manage the firing of that laser now. All right, and guys, like I said, if you're watching, it looks like we have 4 people in here. It's open QA. You could ask me whatever questions you want. I am writing this tutorial, or I'm writing this game because I need to make a new tutorial off it for the tutorial engine that I will be releasing very soon with my partner, Rick. It's very cool. Basically, if you've ever done anything like code school, it's exactly that in Unity. So I have to make this game so I can rewrite the tutorial. All right, so for our firing, we have our transform, all of that good stuff here. Let's go and create an object to spawn. So call the game object and then the object. So we're going to say laser fab. Alrighty, so there's our object we're going to spawn. And I'm going to come down here. And what we're going to do here is we're going to have a shoot function, I guess. Or I'll do it all in update and then put it in shoot. So there's our calculate movement, and we're going to shoot. So if we hit the space key, we're going to fire. All right, so whoops. If input the key down, dot space. All right, so if you hit the space key, we need to fire, so we need to instantiate it. So we're going to say instantiate. And then the object is going to be the laser fab. We're going to instantiate it at my position. And technically, I want it up. I want it a little bit above the player. So I'm going to say my transfer position plus vector3 dot up. So it's going to add one. It's going to add like one vector unit up, so it fires above the ship. And then I don't care about the rotation, so quaternion.identity, default rotation. All right, so let's go and test this out. We're going to go ahead and drag our prefab there. All right, and there we go. So it's working pretty nicely. Sure, it's spawning. Yeah, I guess that's okay. All right. So it's spawning above. Now we just need to create behavior for it to go up. So we'll do that in a new script. We'll have a laser behavior. So we'll go and say, call it laser behavior. On the laser prefab. All right. So first thing we need is we need a speed for our laser. I don't really know what we're going to be using here. But we have here, we'll say private float speed. And if I want to see it in the inspector, serialize field. And we'll set the speed to like 10.0. Alrighty. And then the only thing this thing's going to do is it's going to go up. So we're just going to go ahead and say here, let's go and cache its transform. Transform equals this dot transform. And then here we're going to go and say my transform dot translate. And we're going to say vector3 dot up multiplied by speed with real time. All right, so that's going to go up, and then what I want to do is go and say if it goes above the screen, which should be 10, I believe. Actually, it might not be 10. What is it? It's only like 6. So if it goes, yeah, let's say if it goes to 10. So if the object's position is on the X, or I'm sorry, on the Y, if it's greater than 10, we need to destroy it. So we're going to say destroy. Oh, and actually, you know what? Just give me 1 second, guys. You know what? Actually, you know what we're going to do for our bullets? I think we're going to make an object pool system. If you ever, hey, Jonathan, if you ever use Visual Studio, you can download a free one, Google Visual Studio Community Edition. Okay, good to know. So Alex says, so I'm on a Mac, so I don't get Visual Studios, but if you're on Windows, Visual Studios is actually free now. So Visual Studios Community works great with Unity. If I was on a PC, personally, I would use Visual Studios. The reason why I use Mono Behavior is because I'm on a Mac, and I've grown to actually like Mono Behavior or Mono Develop. But yeah, so thanks, Alex, for that. Okay, so instead of actually doing this system where we're destroying things, because every time you destroy and create an object, like I said with the new keywords, you're calling the garbage collection. So I think what we're going to do actually is we're going to create an object pooling system. Now, the problem with doing that actually as of right now is I don't know if that's too advanced for beginners. For those of you watching, what do you think of object pooling? Should we create it simple where you create and destroy the laser bullets, or should we object pool them where technically you're never actually deleting them, you're reusing them? What does everyone think? Alex, what do you think? object pool for beginners or the standard, you know, destroy and delete? Don't know what that was. We got 5 people in here. Someone decide the direction of this game. Object pooling. Now, if you don't know what object pooling is and you want to learn, this isn't really the time for me to explain something on how to create a pooling system. But if it's not that hard to grasp, then maybe I should do it. But basically, instead of destroying objects over and over again, you're reusing them. So you basically set them, you activate them and deactivate them rather than destroy them. I think for simplicity, we'll go ahead and just destroy them, and then maybe we'll revamp it to create a pool system. So since no one answered, so what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and say, so if the position is greater than 10, we're just going to destroy it. Game object. Alrighty. Yeah, but I'm trying to think if I would be able how to explain object pooling. Let's see if I should do that. No, I'm not going to do that because then I got to get into iterations, for loops, for each loops, and I don't need. No, it's just overwhelming questions I don't need. So we're going to do it the simplistic way, and maybe I'll make a tutorial on object pooling, which I've wanted to do for quite some time. So we're going to do that. So it's not a total performance killer, but it's not the greatest. So if the position is greater than 10, we're going to destroy it, and that should all work just fine now. So we can go ahead and shoot lasers, and they get destroyed. Alrighty, good stuff here. What we're going to do now is go ahead and just create the enemy. Let's see here if we have a model for that. Oh, okay, we don't have models for the enemies. Oh yeah, we do. We have an enemy ship here. All right, we're going to put that in there. Enemy. Give it a tag of enemy. And then, what do we need to do to this thing? I need to rotate them 90 degrees. I think that's the front of it. All right, so he's going to come down like that, and we can also make him shoot, which would be pretty neat. Probably needs to be shrunk down a bit, though. 8.8.8. All right, that's better. All right, so we got our enemy there. Let's see here. We have our enemy. Oh yeah, let's go and just give him the behavior moving down, and then we'll add bullets to him as well. But let's see here. I need to give him a collider. So we're gonna have a mesh collider, and mesh is really bad to use. So I'm actually gonna use convex, which is gonna make it much better. So if you look at it, if I don't use convex, it uses like every vert on it as a collider, which is very bad for performance. Whereas if we make it convex, it kind of does its best to make it like one shape, which is what we want. So we have that. Now what I see here with this collider, we might have an issue where when you shoot a laser from the enemy, it might hit its own collider. So we're gonna have to tell it to ignore it. So give me 1 second here. All right, so what we're gonna do. Sorry, guys, my brother. Oh, let me turn that down. All right, so what we're gonna be doing here is the enemy behavior. So I'm just gonna go and create an enemy script. So we have laser behavior. It's going to do enemy. I don't know why I did laser behavior as laser behavior. Do that. Laser. I'm going to go in here and change that now. It's going to be a laser. All right, so for the enemy, same functionality as the player. So basically, we're going to get a hold of its transform. So we're going to go ahead and basically say private transform, and then we're going to say my transform equals this dot transform. No, you cannot have my HBO password. By the way, if you're watching, just so you guys know, Game of Thrones is on tonight, and it's going to be awesome. Watch it. It's going to be amazing. Love Game of Thrones. All right, so we got our transform, and now what we're going to do is just need to translate them down. So we're going to go ahead and say my transform.translate, and then vector3.down, and multiply by our speed, which we don't have yet. So we're going to say private float speed, say 5.0f. So we're going to multiply by our speed. And actually, you know what? Because he's just like our player, I think, and he's rotated oddly, I'm pretty sure we need to move him on the z-axis, right? Yeah. See his forward direction for his local space? It's in the, unless I moved him global. No, I could do that. But no. So to move locally in his z direction, that's what we need to change. So I'm going to say vector3.down. I'm going to say vector3.back. And then multiply by the speed times time.delta time. All right, and that should cause him to come down. So let's add the enemy behavior. And then we're going to make him a prefab. And we should be good. All right, he's moving the other way. So vector3 forward. All right, there we go. Good stuff. All right, so now we need to handle some collisions, and also I need to make it so when he goes below 4, he gets destroyed. So, and I'm going to be covering singleton managers, I think, in this, because when we get into our game manager and our spawn manager, they're probably going to become singleton managers. So I recommend watching one of the the one where I made a third-person shooter game. I really go into what what singleton managers are. They're very useful. So we're probably going to use those in this. So we have here forward speed time.delta time, and then what we're going to do here is we're going to just check our transform position. So if on the y we are less than, I think it's negative, we'll say -6. And we're going to say destroy, and this game object. All right, let's go and test that one out. All right, that worked perfect. Good stuff. Okay, so let's make it so we can actually kill the enemy here. So we can instantiate objects, we can instantiate objects, so we need to actually do a collision detection. So our enemy is going to be in charge of handling the detection, so we're going to make him a trigger, and we need to give him a rigid body. Right, otherwise the events won't get called. So turn that off. You can make it kinematic. We're not doing anything with physics. And let's go and test this out. So on the enemy, he's going to have on trigger enter. All right, and you're going to have collider other. All right, and basically we just want to check what the other is. So if other.tag equals player, then player. And then we can also check for the laser. So if other.tag equals laser, and we're going to say kill me, and me would be the enemy. All right, so if other.tag, we need to just kill the player, so we're going to go ahead and say other.destroy. And actually, I really don't want to destroy the player. I actually just want to give the illusion that we destroyed him. So we're just going to actually do, we need to say other dot renderer, except I need to get the access here. So I need to say other dot game object dot renderer dot get component. Okay, so this is the Unity 5 change. In order to access anything other than the transform, you have to use get component. And it's really not a good idea to do it that way. So what I'm going to do is I need to get access to the renderer component of the player. So I'm going to go ahead and say renderer, and then let's say player renderer equals other dot get component, and then the renderer of that object. So the renderer of other is going to be the player in this case because it's the tag of player. And then once you have that, we can go ahead and say player dot enabled equals false. So that's going to give the illusion that the player died. Here, the laser is going to kill the enemy, so we're actually going to destroy him. So we're actually going to go ahead and just say destroy this dot game object. All right, and that's going to work out. So let's go and test that out. All right, so he hit me first, so the player got destroyed, or the player's inactive. He's actually still there, just inactive. So what we're gonna do here is shoot him first. All right, that didn't work, so let's figure out why. Hold on. Make sure we're both on the same Z here. Alrighty, and something tells me here our laser has a collider. So, why are we not getting any collision detection? My laser, oh, okay, my laser is untagged. There we go. The laser needs a tag. Now we should be able to do it. All right, there we go. So now we can kill the enemy. All right, so let's add our enemy script back. And okay, well, he still got me first. All right, so what we're gonna do now is, now that we can kill our enemy here, I guess we can start getting into some more of the actual like win condition logics and all that good stuff. So let's see, what would be next? Let's see, we can move, we can kill. I guess we can make it so the enemy can shoot too. Yeah, let's go ahead and, although, you know what, for this game, I might do it at the end, but for the actual tutorial for the engine, I don't think I'm going to include that just because it'll make it too long. So I'm just going to go ahead and do what I'm going to do for the tutorial. So let's go ahead and make it so basically they're just going to run into you. Maybe at the end I'll add that for us, but they're just going to run until you can kill them. So let's go ahead and focus, create a spawn manager now, I guess. So we're going to go ahead and create a new C# script. That's going to be a spawn manager. I actually don't know if I should make that's a singleton for beginners purposes. Yeah, I'm not going to do a singleton in here either. Okay, so for our spawn manager, we need an object to spawn. So public game object, we'll say spawn manager, or enemy. Enemy tab. All right, and what we're going to do here is we're going to use a coroutine. We're going to use a coroutine to go and spawn them. So IE numerator spawn. All right, and we're going to spawn them every, say, 2 seconds. So while true. And then we're going to say instantiate. I need a position to instantiate them. So we're going to say instantiate. Give me 1 second. Okay, yeah, so enemy fab. And then the position is going to be random. So I'm going to actually store that in a variable. That's going to just change. Actually, nah, we can do it right here. Although I will. We're going to say spawn position, so vector3, spawn pose equals new vector3. And for the x, it's going to be random.range between -10 and 10. And then for the y, it needs to be above the screen. So we're going to say like 8. And then for the z, we want it to be 0. And then the rotation, we don't want to touch the rotation, I believe. So we're going to go ahead and say here. Oh, whoops. Yeah, we're good there. Okay. So we're going to say spawn pose here. And then quaternion identity. All right. So now that we're spawning, let's go ahead and test that out. I need to call that coroutine. So start coroutine, spawn pose. Spawn, sorry. Alrighty, and we need to also talk to wait. So I'm going to say yield return new wait for seconds, and those seconds is going to be every 2x. All right, let's see. By the way, if you're just tuning in, like the post on the Facebook page says, if you're not familiar with the Facebook page, go to digitalgaminginstitute.com to get there. It's an open QA, so if you have questions, whatever, regard to Unity or my life, or whatever you want to talk about, go for it. So let's see here, and we should be good to spawn now. So our spawn manager needs an object, so we're going to create empty spawn manager. Add the spawn manager. This position is 0, 0, 0. All right, it needs an enemy. That's the right one. All right, let's test it out. Okay, so you'll notice it's spawning them, but they're going in that direction. And I think that's because of the rotation. So what I need to do is actually assign them a rotation. And you'll see that it asks for a quaternion rotation. So the rotation it needs is, I could give it the rotation here. Let me see, their enemies are at 90 on the X. So I'm going to say 90 here. And then I can just go ahead and say my transform. My transform. Okay, I need to get my transform. All right, and then here, my transform. Okay, and what I can say here is my transform dot rotation, which is a quaternion. That should fix it. All right, so every 2 seconds, it's going to spawn a new one randomly on the screen. Okay, so now that we have that working nicely, let's go ahead and shrink my ship down here. All right, there we go. All right, so time to save. Okay, so now that we have a spawn manager working, I'm trying to think if it's what else there is that I'm missing that we need to do. All right, I think we can get into win conditions now. Okay, so let's start with the enemy. So every time I kill the enemy, I'm going to have some sort of counter and stuff like that. So we're going to be using the new UI system here. Basically, we're going to have a text component. So we're going to create a UI canvas here. And I need some text. So this is going to be the score. All right, this is our score text. All right, and let's see here, score text. And we're also going to create a game manager in a second here. All right, so we can see here in the bottom left, there's our new text. What we're going to do here for that is we're going to move it. So where's our score text? All right, let's go ahead and move our score text up here. And what we can do, we're going to do overflow. Let's make this like 28. And then we can make it bold. And let's do white. All right, so there's our new text. It's going to say score. All right, now I'm pretty sure in my old series, in update, I may have been checking for score, or I'm updating it whenever, you know. But basically, our game manager is going to update the score only when it needs to be updated. So the way we're going to do that, here's our score here. And I guess we'll make it say 0, 0. Or we'll say 0. Oh yeah, we'll just have it like that. All right, so what we're going to do is say we give him, we'll give him 10 points every time he scores. So what we need to do through script now is figure out when we got to call that. So we're going to do that in our enemy when the laser hits it. And we need a game manager that's going to update the score. So we're going to go ahead and create a new C# script. Let's create an empty object again. Name it game manager. Alrighty, we're going to create a new object here, game manager. Alrighty, let's open that up. Alright, and we're not going to need, I don't think, void update and void start, maybe. But basically what we're going to be doing here is we're going to have a public function that's going to update the score. So public void update score. Actually, it's going to hold the score as well. So we need a variable first. So it's going to say public public int, and then score. And actually, that's really all we need. We can just update that. But actually, we still need a function that's going to update the score. So we have public int score, and then here we'll have public void update score. And when that function is called, you need to update the score. So in order to do that, you need access to your text component. So we need to use using Unity engine.ui so we can get the new UI interface. And I want the text component. So we need a private variable for private text. And then this is going to be score text. Now I don't really, I don't want to use void start to find it. So what I can do is I can just serialize this, serialize it, and add it to the inspector. Yeah. So here's our score text. Add it there. And then basically update score is going to go ahead and say every time that function gets called, we're just going to say score text dot text equals score, and then plus our current score. And there we go. Oh, we don't have to do anything with update. All right, so now to make it work, we've got to go into our enemy here, and we got to get into when we hit the player. So if the tag is laser, we're going to destroy this object, and then before we do that, though, we're going to give us points. So we need access to the game manager. So we need to say private game manager. The handle to that. Find it, and then get the component game manager. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to say game manager dot score plus equals 100 or 10. All right, and then after incrementing it, we need to also say game manager dot score, or sorry, game manager dot update score. Call that function. So after adding 10, it should update. So let's go and test that out. Alrighty, eventually I'll get one. Okay, so now we have a new problem. They're not hitting me. So let's find out why. What is wrong with them? Interesting. All right, let's find out why they're not hitting us. Okay, so they're no longer triggers. I'm not sure how that happened. Must have been in play mode or something, or I didn't hit apply. I have no idea. Okay, so they're triggers, but they're still not working. And hold on, actually. One sec. Let's see. Is trigger convex? We're both on the same Z's. Well, it was working a second ago. Can't even kill me. All right, let's see here. We have a mesh collider. The enemies have, okay. I don't know what happened to the rigid body that I attached to him. It's gone. Weird. Use gravity is kinematic. Okay, there we go. All right, so let's go ahead and retest that. So score right now is nothing. All right, there we go, 10, 20. All right, good stuff. So now let's go ahead and create a lives text. So what I can do here is I'm just going to duplicate that. Name it lives text. All right, and let's go ahead and call it lives. And what we're going to do is we're going to move that down. So we got score, we got lives. I'm going to say current lives when you start the game is going to be 3. All right. So alrighty, that works. And then what we need to do now is we need to do the same thing we did with the score. So for the lives over here, public int lives equals 3. And then every time you get shot, we're going to decrement that value. So we need to say public void update life or update lives. Every time you update lives, we're going to go ahead and get a handle onto the score text or to the live text as well. So text, live text. All right, I need to put another system. I need to put another serialized field. So in our game manager, put the lives text there. All right, so we're going to go ahead and say here live text.text equals lives and plus lives. Alrighty. All right, now we can go ahead and make that work. So what we need to do here is if my transfer in opposition on y is greater than 0 and the enemy. All right, so if you hit the player, we need to lose a life. So we turn off the render and then we subtract the life. So we're going to say game manager dot lives minus minus. So we're subtracting 1 life. And then we need to also update the score. So we're going to say game manager dot, update lives again. So we're going to update the lives. And after updating the lives, we need to do another check. Whoa. We need to check if it's game over, which means you have no lives. So if game manager dot lives, if game manager dot lives is less than 1, meaning you have none, then we're going to go ahead and say we're going to go ahead and say that's where we're actually maybe we'll fully destroy the object. We'll say destroy other.gameObject, also debug.log, or you know, no, we'll never destroy the object. We'll just say debug.log, no lives remaining. All right, and then we can figure out the logic for that when we get to it. So we're going to update our lives. If lives is less than 1, then you're completely dead. Now what we need to create logic for is re-enabling the player. So some games make them flicker and stuff like that. So that's what we're going to do. So we have 2 lives. And I'm disabled. I can't see my character, so I'm going to try and hit. Okay, so I hit them. Lives 1. All right, live 0. Good stuff. All right, so, and it said no lives remaining. So that works. And also you'll notice I can go negative. So we actually want to do a check before that. So if other.tag was player, and then here we're going to go ahead and say, here, just check and see. So, and actually, I'm sorry, we don't even have to do it there. Every time we do this, we're going to go ahead and just do it here, update lives. So if lives equals 0, and you update them, or if lives is less than 1, I should say. If lives is less than 1, we're going to just say lives equal 0. That way you can never go below 0. All right, so we got that. We need to make it so we actually flicker now, or so we appear back after, like, say, a second. And we also need to destroy the enemy after they run into us. So on the enemy here, let me see, where are we doing that? So if you hit the player, you're turning off our renderer, and then you also at the very end, you're going to destroy yourself. All right, so we destroy the enemy, but now we need to signify something to respawn player. All right, so the way we're going to do that is through the game manager. We need to know if you got hit. So we're going to have here public bool is hit. All right, and if that's true, that means you got hit, and we're going to do something when you get hit. So, and actually, you know what? We don't even need to do it through a bool. We're actually going to do it through a function that's going to, a coroutine actually, a function that's going to call a coroutine. So we're going to have here, we're going to have a function that's not necessarily, it needs to be public. So we're going to say public void player hit. All right, so that means the player hit. When this function gets called, the player's been hit. So when the player is hit, we're going to say start coroutine, and then we're going to create a coroutine called respawn reset player. All right, so we're going to say reset player. So IE numerator, then reset player. All right, reset player. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to say yield return new wait for seconds, like 1.5, wait 2f. And then we got to reappear. So what we're going to do is we need access to our player. All right, so we're going to do that right here. If here we have private player and then underscore player. We're getting our player there, and then we need void start now. So void start, and we're going to go ahead and say player equals GameObject.find, and the player, and get a component. All right, so I actually don't know if that was a good idea or not, because I actually need his renderer component. I'm actually going to go ahead and say renderer, but it's the player's renderer, so we're still going to call it underscore player though. And I want the renderer. I have the player's renderer, and then what I'm going to do is when we start that coroutine, we're going to say yield return new wait for seconds, and we're going to go ahead and say player.enabled equals true. So all we got to do is just call this function player hit. So where is our player hit stuff? Enemy. Okay, so we're going to update our lives. And then at the end, before destroying him, we're going to go ahead and say game manager. And actually, if game manager.lives less than 1, we're going to say debug.log no lives remaining. So we're going to do it here. We're going to say game manager.reset or player hit. All right, and that's going to handle respawning us. So let's go and test that out. All right, and there we go. Now, if we want to make them flicker, we could do that too. Very simple. Just go back over to our game manager here. And all we got to do is say yield return new wait for seconds. We could say 0.5f. Copy it. False. And basically copy it again. So you wait 0.5 goes true, another goes false, another goes true, another goes false. And then at the end, we'll make them go true. So we'll add one more in there. We're going to return new wait for seconds, and then true. All right, so if we test that out, we'll flicker. All right, so it looked really cheesy there, actually. It was not enough. And actually, you know, we're going to let that handle turning him off, actually, because we don't need to turn him off there. So let's do this. We're going to say false, true, false, true. And we'll say false, and then we'll add one more. I'm going to say yield player.enabled equals false, and then player.enabled equals true. That's going to handle actually killing him and turning him off. So, let's see. Where's our game manager's enemies? So instead of turning them off here, we're going to do it through the game manager. And then we're going to go ahead and say game manager dot. Oh no, should be it. Alright, let's test that out. Alright, and it might be a little too slow, but we're going to keep it at that for now. Alright, so let's say we can die, we can come back. I guess now we need to do, trying to think, what is next? What else is there to do? And hey, you know what? I'll make that a little better. Let me see. So game manager, make this like 0.2. So there we go, that's better. All right, so let's see here. We have that, we have our score, we have our lives. There's really not much more logic to this game. If you guys can think of anything else in a beginner's, what else would be applied to this, feel free to let me know. Let me see. What else is there we can do? Because otherwise, I think this pretty much wraps up the game. We have our score, we have our lives. I guess we could do, maybe we could do a restart functionality too. Let me see. Let me see our player here. Yeah, you know what? We'll add one power up. We'll do a slow motion power up that affects just the enemy. So let's see here. Here's our movement. Here's our shoot command. Let's go and create that. So void shoot. Going in here. Right, so that's for shooting. What we need to do is create a slow motion power up. So the game manager is going to know if we're in slow-mo. So I guess it makes sense to put it there, maybe in the player class. But I think the game manager makes a little bit more sense because it will know the state of the game. So we'll say here, public int, public bool slow-mo on. That is slow-mo or slow motion on. All right, so right now it's false, but it will be true when you collect that power up. So let's go and create the power up. I don't have an object for that, so we're just going to make it a purple cube. It's going to be our power up. All right, that's our power up. 8.8.8. And let's go ahead, make it a trigger, give it a rigid body. It's kinematic, no need for physics. Let's go and give it a material. Oh yeah, we still got to do audio in this game. That's right. All right, we're still going to do audio. Yeah, we got a lot of audio to do. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to do the audio next. Let me see here. We got a material here for the power up. Go on the power up. All right, and then let me see here. Did that not go on it? Oh, I didn't change the color of it, I guess. Go and make it purple. All right, so that's the power up. That's going to be slow motion, right? And what's going to do is I want the enemies to be in slow motion, but the player not to be in slow motion. So we're going to do a little bit of math to give it the illusion that that the player is not actually in slow motion. All right, so we're going to create a new script here for power up. I'm going to have one power up in this game. So we're going to call it power up, put it on the power up. Its behavior is going to be really simple. It just goes down. Transform. And here we're going to have transform equals this dot transform. And update. We have my transform dot translates. And we're going to say vector3 dot down. Give it a speed of 5. Alrighty, so we have that, and now that's zoomed out, let's go ahead and make it collectible. So we need void on trigger enter, and we don't want the enemies to collect it, so we're going to check for the player. So basically, if other.tag equals player, then we need to activate slow motion. So we're going to say game manager Game manager and motion on. Actually, you know what? We might not even need to do this through a bool. We could probably do this all through a function. I'm trying to avoid update as close as possible. Trying to think, why would anyone else need to know that it's in slow-mo? Unless we had something like where you couldn't fire in slow-mo. Well, then I need a bool to check. So I'm actually going to do this in the game manager where instead of having a bool, we're going to have a function. So we're going to name it activate slow-mo. So we're going to say public void activate slow motion. And when you activate it, and actually, no, I'm sorry, we do need the bool because that bool is going to tell us if we collected it twice or not. Because if you already collected it once, there's no reason to collect it again. So we're going to say public bool slow motion on. Alrighty, so here in our power up. So if you collect the power up, we need to notify it. So we're going to say slow motion. Whoops. And actually, if you collect the power up, we need to make sure you haven't already collected it. So we're going to say if game manager, I need access to. Game manager. All right, and then let's get the game manager. All right, so now that I have a handle onto the game manager, we can go ahead and do that. So if game manager dot slowmo dot no, okay, hold on. If game manager dot slow motion on is already true, then we just want to say return, do nothing. All right, the return keyword allows it to just do nothing. Else, we need to call the game manager dot activate slow motion. Now, when that gets called, we're going to start a coroutine that's going to allow us to power down. So we're going to say activate slow motion. We're going to go ahead and say start coroutine, and we're going to call it slow motion. All right, we're going to say slow motion here. And now we need IE numerator, and we're going to say slow motion. We're going to say slow motion, so we're going to go ahead and say time.timescale equals 0.5f. And we want it to last for about 5 seconds, which I believe is actually going to be 10 seconds now because the timescale is 0.5. So I'm going to go ahead and say 2.5. Then we're going to set the timescale. Timescale back to 1, and the bool is going to go true. So slow motion on equal or false. Sorry, it's going to go back to false. So slow motion on equals false. Now, all right. So this is going to work. We also need to add it to our spawn manager, but activate slow motion. Oh, whoops. This is slow motion. So this is going to work. I also need to add it to the spawn manager so that spawns it. But what is wrong with this? Slow motion on cannot be used as a method or delegate. Oh my god. Slow motion. Okay. So it is going to work. We need to add to the spawn manager, but oh, I lost my train of thought. All right, we're here. Let's just go with it. So we can activate slow motion. You'll see as soon as I collect it, what's going to happen is now everything's in slow motion. Notice it also didn't delete, so I need to fix that. However, everything's in slow-mo, and it lasts for 5 seconds. So I want it to be where just the spaceships or just the enemies are in slow-mo, but I'm not. So what I'm going to do is first delete this. So on trigger enter, the last thing we do is we're going to say destroy this.gameObject. And I'll focus on spawning it after we get it working. Now, in order to do this, the way timescale works is it's the speed of the game, and it affects anything that has a delta on it. And what that means is anything that basically uses time.delta time or has some sort of delta fixed change. So like basically our input manager uses a delta to smoothly go from 0 to 1. All right, it's not necessarily just 0 and 1, it's 0, 0.1, 0.2, all the way up. So if we were to, basically our player moves half speed because our delta takes time and it's being affected. We need to tell our player not to be affected by it. So in order to do that, we have to use what's called get access raw. And that's going to say use 0, 1, or -1, nothing in between. So when I do that, you'll see that we move a lot quicker now because we're not going from 0 to 1, although I still hit the power up, so I'm still moving in at half speed. Okay, once I'm out of half speed, I move a lot quicker. Like from the start, I automatically go from 1. I don't have to speed up to get to 1, or I don't have to go from 0 to 1. I just go straight to 1. All right, so in order to give the effect of the enemy having to go slow-mo, but the player not having to go slow-mo is very easy. You'll see here that we're saying my transfer not translate, and then here is our time.delta time. This is getting cut in half. In order to fix it, to make it a 1, basically you have to make it a 1, is all you have to do is divide right here, just divide it by the current time scale, time.timescale. What that's going to do is it's going to set it to where it's multiplied by 1 instead of half of what it originally is. So if I collect the slow-mo, you'll notice I'm still moving at full speed, but the enemy is in slow-mo. And he sped up. So it's really simple. That's how it works. If I wanted the enemy to not be affected, you do the same thing. You'll notice actually when I collect that power-up, my bullets are going slow-mo. Now to fix that, I just got to go into my laser and do the same thing. Divide it by the current time.timescale. That way now my lasers will go full speed. All right, that's that power up. And real quickly, we can add it to the spawn manager and then we'll get into audio. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have another coroutine just for that one. I'm going to say power up. Let's see here. We need an object to spawn. And then we need to spawn it. So we'll go ahead and say here, just pick this code. We're going to say spawn pose between that, yeah, instantiate the power up fab. Spawn pose can stay the same. I don't really care about the rotation, it's just a cube. So we can go and say quaternion.identity. And then we're going to wait random amount of seconds. So we're going to say random.range between 5 and 15 seconds. All right. So now that's working. Let's go ahead and just add that. The power up needs to come a prefab. Get it off there. Put it in the spawn manager. Alrighty, so that's good. All right, so let's go and do audio now. So we got a few clips here. We have an explosion clip, explosion enemy, player, music background, weapon enemy, and weapon player. All right, so first thing first is we don't have any asteroids here, but we can also add those maybe. Music background. That's gonna be the easiest one. So let's go and do that one first. So on the main camera here, all you gotta do, add an audio source components. All this new audio stuff in 5, which I'll probably cover in a video when I have time. Play on awake, yes. We want it to loop, yes. Audio clip is going to be music background. The volume, we can make it to be like 65% maybe. All right, and let's go and test it out. That easy. All right, let's do the sound. Let's do our shooting next. So in order to do shooting, we got to go in our player. That's where we shoot. So our player is going to have a public variable that's going to hold a clip. So we're going to say public, and have public audio clip. And then we're going to say fire. Fire sound. fire clip. All right, so we got our fire clip there. And then we also need access to our audio source component. So we're going to say private audio source, then audio. All right, and that's going to be underscore audio equals get component and audio source. All right, so the audio source goes on the player. So click on the player, give them an audio source so we can hold a clip. Now the reason why I'm not assigning the clip through the inspector and I'm doing it through script is because we have more than one clip. Otherwise I would. We have a death sound for our player that we're going to need to use. Play on awake, no. The volume for this will make like 0.76. And then let's go back into our script. So every time we fire, we need to play that clip. So we're going to go ahead and say here, technically it's going to spawn, light happens before sound, so you'll do it after this technically. We're going to go ahead and say here, we're going to have audio.clip equals fire clip. And then we're going to say audio.play. And we have two options here. What are they? You belong delay. Okay, cool. So you can play a clip at a delay now, I guess. Yeah, I think that's new. All right, so we're just going to play the clip. Let's go and test that out. Oh, I can't even hear it. So I also don't know if it actually worked. 1 second. We instantiate, we say audio clip.clip, audio.play. Oh, I never assigned the clip, right. So weapon player. Oh, let's test it out. All right, there we go. Okay, so we got that. Now let's go and get our damage one in there. And that's going to be called on the enemy. The enemy is going to be in charge of playing that clip. And if I wanted to, technically, too, I could have an audio manager that would handle all the sounds, which is actually probably the way I should go about it. But for beginner purposes, I don't want to set up a new audio manager just for that. I think that's really a pain, although maybe I should. But yeah, we're going to keep it as is for now. So the player has a death sound. So what we can do is when the player dies or gets hit or something like that, we need to play his clip. So it's going to be on the enemy. The enemy is going to hold it. So here's the enemy. Add an audio source component, and we'll do it through script as well for the enemies. And then volume, we'll put 0.76. All right. So back on the enemies here, we're going to have a couple variables. We're going to have public audio clip. And we're going to have player death and public audio clip enemy death. All right, and we need access to our audio source. Audio. All righty. So here, all right. So if if we hit the player, we need to play both of them. So we're going to go ahead and say audio.clip equals player death, and then we're going to go ahead and say audio.play. All right, and then we're also going to go ahead and say right afterwards, we're going to say audio.clip equals enemy death. I hope this is going to work. I hope it doesn't get destroyed before it finishes playing. Enemy death equals audio.clip. Whoops, audio.play. Here, I'm actually going to fix that issue if it doesn't play because it's getting destroyed right away. I'm going to say destroy after 1F. And I'm actually going to go ahead and turn off its renderer. And the way I can do that is I just need to get a handle to the renderer. So private renderer, render, and then render equals component renderer. And we're going to go ahead and say here, render dot enabled is false. Alrighty. Let's see here. Destroy this game object. Okay, so let's go and player death. Enemy death. And then also, real quickly, if it's the laser, we're just playing the enemy death. So we're going to go ahead and say here, audio.clip equals enemy death, and then audio.play, and we're good. Well, and that should be it. Alright, and you'll notice that it's actually not playing the sounds. Not sure why. Maybe if I get hit. Alright, so it plays it there. Oh, right. It's because it's getting the reason why it's not playing it when the enemy hits, because it's getting destroyed too quickly. So just set 1F. And then here, you just gotta turn off the render. Render.enabled equals false. And that will fix it. Alright, and I think the last thing I'm going to do is when the lives is 0, when the lives is 0, it's game over. A game over screen will appear. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to go ahead and have, let me see here, we just have some new text. Game over text. All right, and we'll have that set to, what is this one? Set to 28. All right, so here's our game over text. Game over. All righty. And yeah, right there is good. All right, so it's going to say game over, although as of right now, and actually what I can do is we're going to just, game over text, we're just going to disable it. We're going to enable that object when it's game over. And the way we're going to do that is to the game manager. So this guy knows when it's game over, and he's going to be informed when it's game over when you have no lives remaining. So in the game manager here, we're going to have a function that's going to activate it. So we're going to say public void game over. All right, so public void game over, and what it's going to do is it's going to grab that text component. So we're going to go ahead and say here, serialized field, game over text. Then here, we're going to go ahead and say here, game over text dot enabled equals true. And actually, whoops, I don't know if it's actually not enabled. I think I need to say game over text dot game object dot set active true, because the component's active but the game object isn't. Alright, and that's going to do with that. And our enemy here needs to call it. So here we're going to go ahead and say game manager dot what do I call it? Game over. And we should be good. Alright, so it would have worked. I got no reference because I didn't assign it. So just got to do that real quickly. Game over there. Let's go and die again. Alright, there you go, game over. Alright, so that's going to wrap up that game. Like I said, guys, I just need to do this because we're releasing a tutorial engine in the coming weeks, and we just need a simple demonstration for it. And this is what we're going to go with. So thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Hopefully I can start getting back into tutorials. I honestly do not know when. I've been super busy lately. But yeah, no. So thanks a lot. Bye.